Most people send their kids off to school assuming they will learn the basic skills in the first years. But in any school system, 10 to 20% of kids will struggle learning to read and write and are at risk of falling behind if nothing is done. Fortunately, there is a literacy intervention with proven results. Reading Recovery aims to make every child a reader.
Reading Recovery is a highly effective research-based early intervention that's designed to help grade 1 readers who are having the most difficulty learning how to read and write to catch up to their peers and to do it before a pattern of failure occurs. So in effect, it provides them with a safety net and a second chance to learn.
Reading Recovery is an intense intervention that provides support to our students in their development of good literacy, a good foundational literacy base from which they can continue to develop as they go through school.
I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of kids in general, but there's definitely prime candidates for reading recovery, yeah.
He was struggling at home. To get him to read, like he always had homework to read from kindergarten and grade 1, just because the teachers had like a reading journal that we had to keep, and he was struggling, but he was our first child, so we didn't know like where they should really be at grade 1.
"Hello, little kitten," said the boy. "Are you hungry?" "Meow, meow, meow," said the hungry little kitten.
It needs to be quickly determined which kids need extra help.
When we're selecting children from Reading Recovery, we first consult with the classroom teacher and we find out which children that she thinks are having the most difficulty learning how to read and write. And we take those children and complete a short series of literacy assessment tasks that helps us determine who indeed is having the most difficulty. And from those tasks, we select the children that show the greatest need and begin providing them with daily individualized instruction with a specially trained teacher.
In September, Daun comes and she assesses all my grade 1s, and from that she takes the lowest, and they are enrolled in the Reading Recovery program.
Daun Newman sent me a letter and said that the girls were having a little bit of problems and that the program would help them with their reading. And so I signed a piece of paper and I was more than happy that they were going to get the help.
Depending upon the child, there may be total disengagement where the child isn't, so the learning is not at that child's proximal range, and that's really important that you start where the child's at. And so you'll get disengagement, they'll be confused, they won't know what's going on. For some kids, they withdraw, and for other kids, you get behavior.
We don't exclude anyone for any reason, whether it's sometimes people will cite behavior issues or attendance or different learning problems. We take everyone who is eligible for Reading Recovery into Reading Recovery. So we're not really concerned about why they have troubles reading and writing, but we get right down to the job of teaching them to be strong readers and writers.
"The kitty, the little fish are safe."
Good, good. I notice how you made that make sense and look right.
Parents and teachers alike both wonder how it affects school.
I don't really find it a disruption at all. Because first thing in the morning it's all routine stuff, that if they miss it on Monday, then they hit it on Tuesday. And it's very quiet. She comes in, they go out, and the other kids don't seem to notice. Or if they do, they want to go with her.
I was just concerned about taking some class time away, but they took him at gym, I think it was, or something.
In the morning.
It was in the morning. It was something that, he wasn't taking away from too much. It didn't take long. I actually have a daughter that was complaining yesterday that she wanted to be with Mrs. Newman and go into the group, but I said, "You read too well, you can't take it."
So to put this in perspective, that's about 2 weeks out of the child's academic career and results in about 50 hours of individualized instruction for that child, in addition to the regular classroom program.
I thought if the help was there, then that was great. And I wasn't against it at all, because if they need the help for reading, then definitely I wanted them to get the help.
In Reading Recovery, problem solving and learning how to be an effective problem solver is paramount. We teach children ways to help themselves so that they can become independent readers and writers. Reading Recovery actually changes the way kids think about reading and writing, and it changes the way they approach it.
I would even go on to say that Reading Recovery, the strategies that are there, are transferable to kids who don't necessarily receive it, but for any good literacy classroom, that those strategies are excellent strategies to incorporate right through the grades.
benefits my instruction, the way I teach, the way I interact with all of my kids, and the way they look at themselves as readers as well.
It teaches them the reading skills. So if you show them a book that they don't know, they know very easily, okay, look at the pictures, what's happening in the pictures, let's match it up with words. And that's what I like, that it teaches them to be very independent and figure it out for themselves.
And allows them to be more effective problem solvers in all areas of their life. And that's really exciting stuff to know that by learning how to read, you actually change the shape of a child's life forever.
It was hard to read math and the instructions. Now I can read that and all the instructions for schoolwork.
Well, just because grade 1 is so much of reading and everything, they are more independently able to work at different activities. I can give them something and they can read the pages and know what they need to do.
Well, everyday life you have to read. Everything you do, there's always instructions and whatever that you need to know how to read.
Instructors are curious about how it can impact their teaching.
A unique feature of Reading Recovery is that it pairs specially trained teachers with the students who require the most help in reading and writing so that they get the best available support to help them to become readers and writers.
It's our hope that the more we're able to provide training for reading recovery teachers, best case scenario that all of our elementary teachers would have received reading recovery training so that they would have that skill set and strategies to take with them into their classrooms.
The Reading Recovery training is an intensive year-long program, and as teachers go through it, it really shifts how they think about reading and writing. As they learn about research-based theories, they come to have a much deeper understanding of the literacy learning process, and this in turn affects the whole way they approach teaching reading and writing. Teachers have commented that after Reading Recovery training, they're not the same teacher that they were when they went into it, and that it positively affects all of their classroom teaching.
I myself have become a much better literacy teacher in my classroom with all of my students, not just with my Reading Recovery students. I've taken all of the strategies and philosophies and applied them in my class, and it has benefited every student in my class, not only my individual one-on-one lessons.
The Reading Recovery program, it's not really a program, it's more of a philosophical approach. In terms of that philosophical approach, it has a built-in professional development piece for teachers. So there's ongoing development, there's ongoing monitoring and adjusting of your instruction.
Reading Recovery teachers are decision makers, and when they design their lessons for the children, they design them specifically for that child, using that child's strengths, which they know very well.
With Reading Recovery, you do think it's just reading, and she did. They read and they worked on sounds and sentences and writing sentences, and they're printing, and it's all of language arts.
So what exactly happens in a lesson? First, the child rereads several familiar books, which represent a wide range of texts of varying difficulty levels.
Little White Rabbit sees two white animals, but the animals said no.
Yeah, they said, we won't play with you, don't they? They say, go away.
Then the child rereads a book that was introduced during the previous lesson, while the teacher observes and records the child's reading behaviors. Next, the child does some letter identification and learning how words work.
Excellent. Can you show me one more capital? Show me the letter that goes with that. Very good.
Looking.
Okay, and how could we take that word apart, Tristan? Okay, excellent. And so what do the two parts say?
Looking.
Okay, and can you build it back up? Okay, check it with your finger.
Looking.
And fast with your eyes.
Looking.
Excellent.
Then the child writes a story with the teacher, paying special attention to sounds and words. Next, the child rearranges his or her story from a cut-up sentence strip provided by the teacher.
My dot is getting a haircut.
Oh.
My dot is getting a haircut today.
So what did you notice?
This.
You noticed that a word was missing, didn't you? And then you fixed it. Excellent. All right. Okay, so Max,
Then the teacher introduces a new book, carefully selected for that student.
Pigs. Do you know about the story of the three little pigs?
Finally, the child reads the new book, orchestrating his or her current problem-solving strategies.
So what makes sense? I'm
Making.
Oh, does that make sense? Does it look right? Get in there and check it. What do you see?
Making.
Reading Recovery delivers proven results.
Sometimes it's so simple as a child coming into Reading Recovery and not even be able to write their own name. And then one day they realize that they can actually write their name for themselves. And it's like their hands go up in the air and high five, and the sense of accomplishment that they get from the smallest things just builds and builds, and you can just watch their self-esteem blossom. And they go into Reading Recovery feeling very unsure and very hard on themselves, and coming out of Reading Recovery feel confident and strong and ready to take on the world. And that's very exciting stuff.
Good job. Okay, you know what? That was fantastic. First time you've ever seen that book.
I think they're more confident in school because of it, because they could comprehend what they're reading.
After Reading Recovery, the students are much more confident in themselves as readers. They look at themselves as readers. They look at themselves as a normal member of the class, that they can just do anything that the rest of the students can do in the class.
His confidence increased. He started reading more books at home. He had a wider range of selection of books that he chose because he was able to understand the titles and find something more in his interest.
If a student is confident in areas in the classroom, they're going to be confident in other areas, such as on the playground, and you're not going to see as many bad behaviors in students who are feeling confident in other areas.
Engaged in learning, happy to come to school, experiencing success, and with experienced success we grow resilience, and so that child has a good sense of self and a good grasp of language and reading, which will transfer all through their school years and into their adult lives.
Parents comment that their children come home excited to come to school, excited that they're learning how to read and write, and that changes even the way that they act at home. They actively seek out books, and they read to their teddy bears, read to their dog, read to their older sister and brother.
Like when they come home after school, they'd be excited and they tell me that they were with Daun and whatever. But I noticed that they were trying to read everything. Like they were wanting to read more.
Funniest thing too was the first time that he actually sat beside me and started reading the newspaper. And that's funny. Hey, you know, now you'll just grab the newspaper and read what's going on. He's like a little old man. Hey?
Parents are a very important part of the literacy learning process. And each day the child will bring home storybooks and little stories that they have written to share with the parents. And by the parents taking an interest in reading them with the children each night, it makes a huge difference in the child's progress.
This Touching Spirit Bear was the biggest one that he's read, and that was starting in grade 3. And I was shocked when he requested he wanted to read it. I didn't think he could handle, you know, how mature it was and the details of it, that he read it. And I was really impressed, and his teacher was too. His report card is really good. He's reading above grade level.
You learn your words.
What happens to kids when they finish?
Data collected from around the world, but also within each province, within each state, within each country, and even here in our own district, shows that children who've had reading recovery maintain their gains and go on to be successful in the rest of their learning.
We keep individual profiles on each of our students. We've been doing that for 8 years. And so we've been tracking our students who've received reading recovery. And the difference it makes in terms of their ability to read at grade level and exceed grade level expectations is amazing.
There's 2 positive outcomes. One is that children successfully catch up to their peers and they're able to benefit from regular classroom instruction. And the other is that children are identified as needing further long-term support. And the material that they've covered in reading recovery and the information that the teacher has about the child is then used to design a program for them.
I'm not too little, said Baby Bear. I'm big.
I find reading recovery really exciting because it changes people's expectations of what's possible for children. It lets them to realize that all kids are learners and all kids want to learn. And so it sets up this high expectation that all kids will succeed. And I think the most exciting thing is that we do indeed show that they can succeed, and then we make it possible. And I love that.
To learn more about reading recovery, contact the North American Council at www.readingrecovery.org.